Whenever we come in here, guys, there's always going to be the sign-in on the Chromebook, and I will do my best to remember people, but it usually goes with no sign-in on the Chromebook, no evidence that you're here. So make sure you guys sign in. There's always going to be a bell ringer. I know maybe people call them different things. I always call them bell ringers, but it's the same type of thing. You know, it'll be a little assignment on the board to get you guys started. So there's 3 quotes, all kind of have the same theme. Think about them, pick one that resonates with you the most. And then on the dry erase board, just take a couple notes about like why you think that's important. The assignment is to pick one, so don't say, well, I like all 3. So find one, and then just be ready to share. And yeah, so there'll always be snacks in the back.
Pick one and why.
Pick one.
I've got it. I've got the one, but what do I do after that? I was listening to the music.
Just basically, why did you think you chose that one? Like, what does it make you think? What does it make you feel?
I thought I heard you say that.
We're gonna come back to this in just a few minutes. Alright, so this is our PLC, which I always call it a professional learning community, but someone suggested a pioneer learning community. I like that too. But either way, and we're going to talk more about this idea of professional learners and why it's important. And so let's begin. So whenever you do collaborative learning, and we're going to do a lot of collaborative learning in here, like a student-centered instruction, it's real important that you do team builders and you do class builders. Team builders that are off content, that kids get used to talking to each other. Class builders where everyone gets to know each other and develop a culture in your room. So if you want kids to share content-based information, you need them to make sure that they trust each other and know each other and are comfortable with each other. So we're going to begin that. So in your baskets, you're going to see a little tube of talking chips. They look like this. Ms. Fraser got some, Ms. Kowski got some. Just pass one out to everybody. Make sure they have one. And don't be looking at the questions.
Okay.
All right, I want everyone to look at the question now, and I want to give you guys some think time. So think about your response. And this isn't a whole class share out, this is just with your groups. So you guys are going to have a group of 3, and you guys have a group of 2. And so you guys can talk a little bit longer than they have to talk over here. And what's your name?
Linda.
Linda?
I'm sorry, I was like distracted.
Linda and Mr. Ochoa, you're going to go first. All right?
Okay.
And so you're going to read your question, and then you're going to give your answer, right? So go ahead, just with your groups.
Oh.
What was my scariest experience of all time or of education?
However you want to frame it. That's appropriate.
As long as it's appropriate.
Probably when I was 6 and I fell off a bike and the car came by and ran over my arm. And I watched the tire go over it 2 times, the front one and the back wheel.
And as we rotate, it's always going to be clockwise.
How would you describe your personality? A couple of things, over the top. Everything I do is over the top. I'm really loud, I can be super intense, I can be super cheerful, I can be super angry, whatever it is, it's over the top.
My daughter, she's 7th grade, and it's either the best day of her life or the worst day.
Yeah. And you always know how I feel. I don't hide it, so.
Okay, what one thing do you treasure the most in life? Health, because if you don't have health, nothing else will be videotaped.
I know.
I'm going to, though.
I'm distracted. Remember I said I'm distracted?
Only good tip if I walk by you, yes.
It's following me as it goes around.
Oh, it follows you.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, yeah. Remember, see, y'all thought it was crazy when I said I'm distracted.
Does everybody get a chance to go?
Okay, no. Okay, your favorite holiday?
Oh, yeah.
Good. All right, so now that we've kind of talking a little bit, and the other PLCs, a lot of people didn't know each other. We have middle school and high school, we have new people, we have old people, so we want to make sure we have a chance that everyone kind of meet each other. So does everyone know each other at their tables? Okay. All right. So I want you to find out who's been teaching the longest at Clark at your table. All right. So you're going to go first with Sharon. So just tell your group which quote you picked and a little bit about why it resonated with you.
You gotta start first.
Oh.
Oh, you're going first for this one, and then
I thought the veteran teacher was going.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what we're doing? Okay.
So you're not listening.
I know.
Yeah, that's why.
Listening to them.
Something we can contribute and different perspectives we can
Okay,
share
so I
and
picked
things we can learn from other people.
to learn.
Oh, yeah.
Because
None of
I
us
feel
know
that
everything.
something new is always happening, so you need to keep up with things.
Just
or
submit another response and try to get
Yeah,
things
so you need to know what something changes.
I think this is gonna be a good year for collaboration, we're all working well together. We all have good ideas.
We do. Everybody has something to share.
I don't mind what we talk about, you know.
That's
It's
right.
It's not.
That's fine. It's not about sitting in, there's,
This is a better way to do it.
okay.
All right, I chose the most valuable resource that all teachers have with each other because we all grow together to become better.
I chose the same quote, the most valuable resource that we have is each other, especially coming in and having, 9 years. Learning everything. All, relying on you guys, the veteran teachers, has been imperative to being successful here at the beginning, so I appreciate it.
When we do share-outs, guys, I'm always going to kind of ask you what's something that you heard, not something that you said. So one of the skills that we're always going to teach, we want to teach our kids is listening skills. So make sure that we're paying attention to our colleagues. So don't just sit thinking about what am I going to say, what I'm going to say. I want you to make sure you're involved in that listening piece. So Mr. Olson, what's something that you heard?
She was stating that, being at home and being a new teacher, like, all of us have helped her out, gave her resources or whatever she's needed to make it smooth for her, the first few weeks.
It's so true. In our classroom, 99% of our day we have blinders on, and we're the expert, and we're the boss. And, and then how much do we see when we take them back? And we see what other teachers are doing. I was in Ms. Frazier's room the other day, the first time I was in there, and I was learning so much, and I had so many good ideas, and that's what it's about, is that we don't know all the answers. But if we could bring together and have a time where we get to share these ideas together, how much more powerful is that? And so,
I even told Ms. Frazier, it would be great if I could shadow a classroom for a day, just to see.
I don't know about that,
everyone
but
else
anytime
is
you need
doing.
1 or 2 periods, let me know.
Okay.
So I'd love to get in there and teach your kids.
Yeah.
And you can go do that.
All right, I will definitely.
Ms. Farrell, what was something that you heard?
I heard, she said the most valuable resource is each other. Without collaboration, our growth is limited.
Good.
I think she said that too. And they said this year, it seems like it's gonna be good, we're all working really well together.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, I really like this hallway, and down on that end of the hallway there, you guys always seem to be doing such cool stuff. And I'm always kind of looking around for people that kind of have that deer in the headlights look. And I go down there, and everyone's always kind of on top of things. And I'm like, okay, let me just keep moving. You guys are working really well. But all these kind of this idea that it's okay to be vulnerable. That we don't have to be defensive all the time. We don't always have the best lessons. We don't always have the answers. I've been working with teachers for 10 years. The greatest impactful teachers I work with, if I say, hey, what went well today, they immediately say, what didn't go well today. They're always so reflective about the gap, about what didn't stick. And they're always so reflective about what's not working. And we need to be vulnerable. We need to understand that we're always trying to perfect the craft. We're always trying to reach those kids. So that vulnerability, that we don't have all the answers, that we're in a profession where we have to keep learning, where we have to learn best practices, and kids change and how they learn change, and the obstacles change. If you go to your doctor and he's like, oh, I still do the same thing since 1978, man. This is what works. This is what works. You'd be like, I'm gonna go to a different doctor. Teaching kind of needs to be the same thing. If we're gonna call ourselves professionals, then we have to act professional, and that means constant learning. That means collaboration. That means becoming better at our craft. And we're gonna kind of forward that theme of being a professional for our next piece. Just a real quick. I share with you a link, and if you have that link, if you could open it up, because we're going to be working through it today. This is our Clark Resource Center. This is something that I hope starts being kind of the fabric of our PLCs. So on here, which is, so on this home page, you'll see kind of the Twitter feed, but all of our PLC meetings will be up here through the year. So if you ever miss one, and you want to go back to it, you can click on the date, and it'll have all the resources from that PLC. So say you mix next week and you want to be able to look at it. It'll have our slides, it'll have any of the resources. It'll have, like we're doing a Quizlet today if we get time to it, and we'll have an Ed Puzzle video, so we'll record every week. I'm trying third period today, see how it goes. If you're not familiar with Ed Puzzle, you'll watch a video, it stops, you have to answer a question, and then you watch the video and you have to answer the question. But say you missed a PLC and you wanted to go to it, you could watch it in the video and you can still get your credit for your PGP points. So we have PLCs after school on Wednesday, before school on Thursday, every prep period, you have the video. I want to make sure that there's not a professional in our building that didn't have a chance or an opportunity, for professional growth. But they will always be here. So I'm hoping this slide will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can just pick or go back to, that PLC that we missed.
I'm sorry, where did you share that link?
I sent a link out yesterday evening saying, this is the link to tomorrow's resources.
Oh, an email?
It was an email.
I don't remember seeing that.
I don't have primary school, so I don't know.
Okay.
Did you straight on my computer?
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not just me?
So every.
There's a chance that
every
you were not,
Wednesday,
I just said to people that signed up,
after school
but you
every
should have been on the
Thursday.
computer.
And then, yeah, and then videos.
That's what I'm doing.
Did they ever do them during school like they are this one?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so they're also, and.
Yeah, link to, you don't have this one, Ms. Fraser?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Did I leave you off the list?
Yes.
It was nice.
I'm not looking for it.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, no. Anybody else that I forget?
No,
Okay,
I.
good.
FRASU. Very, yep.
Anybody else I need to include?
Me.
What's your last name?
Farrell, F-A-R-R.
I must have skipped your whole group.
Yes.
Great, now I have to delete this video.
Sarah.
It just shows you're human.
RC.
ARCE.
ARCE?
Yeah. Linda.
I think you guys over there, you guys get the link?
I don't know. Go ahead and add me, Kelstrom.
I don't see me on yet.
I probably somehow or another skipped the whole group.
Nope, oh yeah. Sarzinski,
No, I'm not on
And how do you spell that one?
SAR,
F?
S.
There it goes. There.
Sorry about that, guys.
Might be in there and I just.
No, because we're looking at it.
Oops, that's okay. That's easy.
Besides, okay, so we have our PLC meetings. If you clicked on the rubric, there's a copy of the rubric down here, a copy of the handbook, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But as we build our catalog of strategies, it'll all be linked to different indicators. Like I was working on grouping a little bit, so if you had clicked on grouping, you would see a bunch of strategies for collaborative instruction. So looking to start building this catalogs, professional readings, some different strategies for like close reading or for some other things. So this is kind of one of my projects I'm working on that I hope works out as far as a good resource center for teachers. But for sure, all of our PLC information will be here. So this will be the hub. I introduced myself at the first day, but real quick, I went to school at OLPH at Hessville, then I went to Gavitt, then I went to Purdue Calumet, and I taught at Hammond High, and now I'm here. So I've been a Hammond kid my whole life. I moved to Lansing, Illinois for 8 years for my wife. I refused to get a new license. I still told everybody I was from Hammond. I don't know why, but I have this real pride about being from Hammond and knowing this community. Like a lot of us, I'm a family guy. It's my wife and my 3 kids. And they're the center of the focus for me. And if I describe myself, like I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I always liked learning. I always liked learning new things and like figuring things out. And so being a teacher kind of fit that mold a little bit. And I think like why did I leave Hammond High? And I really think because I was just getting stagnant. I was just getting not challenged anymore. I wasn't growing. and I just kind of wanted that new opportunity. It kind of goes back to the idea, I just wanted to stay sharp, and I needed something kind of different. I'm responsible for the PDs every week. I look at school data and kind of help analyze that. I'm not sure my whole role in doing the school data. I'm not the school data person, but I'm definitely part of that team of looking at data.
You should be.
Research best practices, test best practices, share best practices. You mentioned about going to see other teachers. Extremely valuable. I am not the well of all answers, but I hope to be the sharer of anything that's great that we see. And if you guys can go see each other, fantastic. Individual professional development. I'm focusing more on the newer teachers at the moment. But you know, anybody that needs support, I can do evaluations. I'm certified to do evals. I've been doing it for 10 years, but I'm not currently scheduled for any evals. That's not to say that admin won't fall behind. I don't know. I hope not, but I can do evals. And I'm part of the instructional leadership team and helping make those decisions. So that's kind of the role that I'm fulfilling. Here's our what, our how, and our why. We're going to talk more about this next week. I've been in about 40 observations so far this year at Clark, and I haven't seen one teacher spend time on this. I see it posted, and it's usually really short and scribbled and not addressed. And so if this is an expectation, it's important for us to talk about how it fits in the rubric, but more important than that, how it fits in instruction. How does it fit in learning? Why do we do it?
The problem is they change what they want in it every year, and we never know what it really is supposed to be.
So we're going to look at that more next week and talk about that structure of it. But our what, and this is what we've all want to be able to say, is that I can help create the norms, the standard for our learning community. I can describe the components of the rubric, what it's made up of. And I can be able to describe the evaluation process. So if I leave here, and some teacher says, what are evals? How does it look this year? I can tell them. What's on the rubric? I can at least tell the structure. So before we leave here today, that's the goal. How we're going to do it, and this is going to be big for me, is just collaborating with my peers. This is going to be set up just like a classroom for collaborative learning. I do sweeps, and I have a record of sweeps. It's just a percent, no teacher's name, of when I walk down the hallway, how many times I see teachers talking and kids just sitting there. And it happens all the time. A student-centered instruction, where the kids are working, where they're talking, where they're thinking, rather than the teacher talking the whole time. So we're going to have a lot of collaborative learning and a lot of strategies that be modeled in every cluster of collaborative learning. We're going to draw a lot of connections to the rubric. So I've been referencing the rubric a lot because that's going to be our language. And why? This idea that we're professionals. This idea that there's a standard for ourselves. And what is that standard going to be? So let's get into that. So there's 6 buckets. Time, listening, confidentiality, decision-making, participation, and expectations. What I want you guys to think of as behaviors. And you guys have sticky notes in your little baskets. And I want you to pick 2 of these buckets. 2 of these buckets. And maybe the 2 that you think are most important. And I want you to think of a behavior that you hold for yourself or you hold for your colleagues. And write that behavior down. So if you really think participation is really important, you might say, I expect myself and my colleagues to come in here and be willing participants in our discussions. For me, like if I was putting one up here for myself, it would be expectations. I will not give a PLC if I'm not fully prepared. I will not waste your time. Bad PLCs are worse than no PLCs. So bad PD, no one has time for bad PD. So I'm going to do my best to always be prepared or I won't have it. So think of 2 behaviors for 2 different buckets. And just post them up. Yep, 2 post notes.
Is it for just this or for our class?
This is for just our learning community.
Okay.
And this could be something that you hold for yourself or that you want to hold for each other. And I say each other, I mean me too. I always tell the kids, and I say to you, this isn't my classroom, this is our classroom. So if you pick listening, what is the behavior? What does that look like? big confidentiality, what about it? And when you're done, just come up and stick it to it. I'm going to compile like answers, and then next week I'm going to present that to you as far as what the standard that we're holding ourselves to as we move forward. TV set up for the game on in the cafeteria, is that the plan? How about watch the pregame activity?
Yeah, we put the game on.
What are you looking for?
We piped audio through the whole building.
Thank
She'll send an email so that every classroom has the Bears pregame on.
Thank you guys. So we'll revisit this next week, one of the first things that we do. So let's get into the rubric a little bit. You're going to need your dry erase boards. And I'd like you guys to structure it with a T-chart. And then you're going to put your pro on the left and your con on the right. A little pro, con, T-chart, very good. And then we give you the topic, and what I want you guys to focus on is like 1 or 2 word answers, like bullet answers. We'll have time to discuss, but right now you're looking for bullet answers. We have a piece of paper that's like 3 or 4 pages long that says this is what effective instruction is. Why is it good to have a rubric for effective instruction? But also what are the negatives of having it? So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes. Try to get 3 to 5 pros, 3 to 5 cons about why having a rubric is good or bad and for teaching. All right? All right, so let's go. 2 minutes on the clock, and then you want as many as you can. It's all individual.
Are we talking about our specific rubric?
Our NIET rubric, or it doesn't have to be, but yeah, specifically ours. Yeah, this rubric here. Why is it good to have this, and why is it bad to have this for instruction? Or just to evaluate instruction. Try to get 3 to 5. More the better though. One more minute. About 30 seconds. Give me 1 or 2 more ideas on there. It's funny how some people have only pros and some people have a much more. All right, just kind of finish up your idea. So we're going to do a strategy. It's called a rally robin. So there's certain terminology I'm going to say in here. Rally is always going to be back and forth. So, Mr. Ocho, what are the things you like about baseball? Go.
Home runs.
Oh, yeah.
No hitters.
Oh, only one at a time. Smell the grass.
Smell the grass.
Oh, you're up, though. You up.
No hitters.
The way it feels when you hit the ball.
Team play.
Yeah, but playing catch with my dad.
Playing catch with my kid.
Right. So that's really rapid, going back and forth, like volleyball, going back and forth. If it's a round, it's going to go around. So we did round robin, we would say stuff, but it would go around in a circle. Robin's always going to be the word for talk. Table's always going to be the word for write. So if we did rally table, we'd be writing our ideas and passing it. So there's some terminology for our cooperative learning. So we're doing a rally robin, back and forth. So I'm just going to have you guys in pairs. So your shoulder partner here, and then you guys will be partners, and then Ms. Farrell and Mr. Olson, you will be partners. All right? So I just want you guys to share your pros with each other. All right? And then I'm going to have you guys pick one that your partner said to share it to the group. Okay? All right, so go ahead with your shoulder partner. And whoever has been teaching longer at Clark is going to go second.
You know the expectations.
Okay. Everyone should be
You know
able
the
to
guidelines of what's expected.
You can base your confidence on reading fear.
You can create one meeting.
That I have expectations clear to follow.
That's all I got.
Just give me a little thumbs up when you're done.
And then I said, gives the person hard to hit every box.
Oh, you guys are just the pros. We're just the pros.
Oh, just the pro. We didn't
I
listen.
was like, wow, you had a lot of pros.
So Ms. Kellstrom, what's something that you heard?
Something that I heard is that, well, we actually both had it, but it was, you know, your expectations are clear.
Yeah, sure. All learners want to know, like what are the expectations, Doug? If I'm being evaluated, what am I being evaluated on? So it definitely provides us some clear expectations in the process. Mr. Ocho, what's something you heard?
Same thing, the expectations.
All right, good, and it's important. Linda, what'd you think?
Keeps teachers focused.
Kid teacher focus. I mean, for a long time, you know, they said, like, you know, we want good instruction, but nobody really knew what that was. What is good instruction? So now we kind of have a language. Or it was a checklist before, and it was like, how's your appearance? Check. You know, are you on time? Check. But it wasn't really like a language as far as like, you know, how are you, you know, engaging your students? How are your students to know there's a mastery? So yeah, so there is some pros in it. We have some expectations. We have a language. We have a way to describe what effective instruction is. We have categories. We have it's broad enough where we can all find improvement. But there are also some cons with it. So you guys already kind of already there. So just continue. But with your partner, if you went first last time, the other person's going first this time. Go ahead and do your rally rapid for cons.
Focus on the areas on the lead too much.
Sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's
And,
kind of what
I feel like you need
yeah.
everything with each
I guess
lesson.
it's another thing I put is that, those are pretty
Every first teacher is like, you may think I did some area, and I may think I did
that area.
vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of what.
Ms. Frazier, what's something that you heard?
Exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Just that not everyone has the same perspective when evaluating.
Yeah, that definitely is a concern. If this is the language and maybe people have different views on it, that's a concern. Ms. Farrell?
I heard that, feel like you need to hit every mark on the rubric,
I feel like this is, yeah.
which is overwhelming.
This is what I need. There's 19, you know, indicators, 113 descriptors. I need to do all of these things.
Right.
Lesson, you feel that pressure.
It's exactly how I felt when I got this.
Oh, man. Sarzinski, is that? Okay. And what was something you heard?
I heard that maybe it doesn't take into account strengths.
Okay. So like would you focus in on like what isn't a working type of thing, or doesn't? Like, what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, we kind of both. I had said limits, and so she had said it
Skips your strengths.
skips your strengths, and it's too it could be too simple.
What do you mean? Explain that. Was it?
Some kids are more like I'm thinking of my kids. Some kids are really creative, and maybe that creativity isn't on that.
So there's a lot more to teaching than just what's on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
There's relationships that you can't describe.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
yeah.
There's definitely some depth, and you know, and you might not have a lot of growth, or this kid might be bad today, but he's usually terrible, you know, and we're definitely making improvements, and it doesn't necessarily reflect all the different things that go in with the arts of teaching. That's true, and it is a lot. It can be overwhelming. So a few of those things, and again, this is how things are supposed to be structured. One of the reasons why we have an instructional leadership team, one of the reasons why we have PLCs is that we're supposed to develop a common language and common expectations for these things. You're not supposed to have evaluators who see things differently. We're supposed to be having those conversations about what mastery looks like. And then they should be communicating that to you, communicating that to me. And we can say what mastery looks like in here. You know, we can say what does roles and responsibility looks like? What is majority of the time? So we're all kind of on the same page. So you're not just, you want to limit subjectivity as much as possible to make it objective during your eval, so it's not who's evaluating.
Do you take this back to them?
What's that? The concerns?
Well, yes.
Oh, I have not necessarily had that conversation yet with them about the evals, but I definitely have it every chance I have as far as when I speak to them one-on-one.
I mean, honestly, like when you are marked low in a category and you ask them, what can I do to improve? You never get any feedback on what you can do to improve.
Well, that shouldn't be the case. I can't, and
right? Has anybody ever gotten feedback on what you can do to improve? No.
From my experiences, like there's different principals that had different amounts of training, and so as a school city, there's some principals that really know the rubric and some that don't. And so when you have different teachers being evaluated differently, and you have money involved, it causes problems.
Right.
At least you want your evaluation team to be on the same page. So one of my goals is to make sure that we're all saying the same things as far as what's expected.
Right. So
we have clear expectations of what it looks like. So that subjectivity hopefully isn't there as much. It's broad in the sense that it's not meant to be for every lesson. So if you take 40 pictures of your 40 different days, you have pictures of it. Do you see a commonality? Do you see maybe I'm talking too much? Maybe my kids are never grouped properly. Do I see that I'm not motivating my kids? Do I see it's not relevant to them? So hopefully over many observations, that you may see that there's a piece of instruction that you're not doing particularly well. And so that's why it's supposed to be a growth tool. There are certain lessons that lend themselves to cooperative learning, certain lessons that lend themselves to modeling, certain lessons that lend themselves to activities materials. So to look at this as I'm going to do this in every lesson, that's not practical. You can get 5s, but 5s for every lesson isn't going to be possible because you have 50 minutes. But is there a pattern over time that you're doing well, and a pattern over time that you're not doing well? That's what they're looking for. Announced evals you can kind of prepare, but unannounced, sometimes it's hard because you're not necessarily structuring the lesson to as best as you can, for a rubric, so it's difficult when unannounced. But so it's not meant as a checklist. It's not meant I need to do all of these. It's meant to be what do I do well over a period of time, and what can I identify that I can.
But that's how it's being used.
We both looked at each
So
other.
again, from the unit perspective, it always goes back and forth about how many evals. If you have more evals, then that one eval isn't do or die. It's like having a midterm and a final. Like in your college.
I will tell you, we've been told, especially for your announced, it's been told to us. Well, it's the beginning of the year, you're not going to do well on it, and you're not going to show growth then. So that's what we've been. So the whole dynamic needs to be changed.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Right. I said, so we're always bad teachers at the beginning of every year? That doesn't make sense. That's
We
what I said.
discussed yesterday that we don't even feel we're ready to, we don't even have our classes together
We're
yet.
still working in 6th grade
on
on
behavior.
a lot of procedures and
I know
stuff.
the evaluation schedule has started. I know it's a lot for 2 principals to evaluate everybody. So I empathize with that responsibility. Because if you wait till December, then it's not fair in December.
Right.
If you wait till May, it's not fair in May. So I think maybe who they're structuring as far as who they evaluate, maybe that's specific to people who are more comfortable. Because I suggested that new teachers shouldn't be evaluated for a few weeks.
No, they've got them in there. But when you go into your pre-conference, just let them know we're still teaching procedural things, and we're doing this.
And we're doing the we.
Well, 100%. So a teacher who's going to evaluate it wants to use station work, but she has a procedure for station work.
Right.
So it's really tough for her because what she would like to do for eval, the procedures aren't in place.
Right.
So I guess it's really tough to do when you only have a small instructional leadership team doing all the evals. If they had 4 or 5 principals and they had less on their plate, it'd be different.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure there's an answer that best fits for everybody.
Sure.
But I understand what you're saying about the negatives. Hopefully this becomes a place for us to use as our foundation for our professional learning, and from the evaluation point, it's used as a growth tool. That's the expectation. At the end of the day, we all get evaluated, and I get evaluated too, and we do our best with that piece. So that's a little bit about the rubric. I shared it with you in your Google Drive, so if you go to share it with me, you'll find it. I emailed it to you all. If you're not familiar with your desktop, the Clark Shared folder, it was the Google Drive before Google Drive. So on every desktop, there's a folder that says Clark Shared folder. It's in there too. Everybody has access to it, but if somebody deletes it, then it's gone. And you gotta put it back in there. So don't delete stuff in the share folder, unless it's your stuff. And then it's on the teacher resource webpage, which I hope to build. So the structure there are 3 domains. Instruction is the big domain that carries for most of the indicators. What are the other domains? Anybody want to guess? One's really important for your eval. It's your design and planning. So you're having your lesson plans for your evaluation is hugely important, not because the evaluator wants to waste your time, but in our rubric, there's the design and planning domain. So there's specific descriptors about our planning. The other one's the learning environment. You know, the respectful culture, the classroom management. So you have learning environment, design and planning, and then your instruction. Those are your 3 domains. The left side are your indicators. These are kind of the next level of the umbrella. And you can see them: standards and objectives, motivating students, presenting instructional content, academic feedback, grouping, all those things. It's filled with these dots. Dots are called descriptors. Describing the indicator, what it looks like. The idea is, again, for it to be broad enough that nobody masters anything in particular. So, like, you may find an area that you're really good in feedback, and then maybe you're not focusing on your activities materials or something like that. So the idea is that everybody can find an area of growth. We are not teaching the rubric in our PLCs. What I'm going to be going over is the pragmatic approach. What strategies or what do we do in our classrooms that impact that indicator? So for next week, we're looking at standards and objectives, but more we're looking at of how we're structuring our classroom with the what, how, and the why. What is rigor? Like, how do we know our classrooms are rigorous? How do we make sure our classrooms are aligned to our objective? So we're doing activities that don't match our objective, that don't match our unit plan. No, that's a problem. And then formative assessments, which is the big one. How do we know our kids mastered the lesson that we just taught? You know, too many times we teach and we have no idea whether or not people learned it. So we're looking at not this part so much as what goes into teaching that hits that. So for the next few weeks, this is what we're looking at. Formative assessments, summative assessments, checking for understanding. We're looking at how do I provide internal motivation for my kids, making it personally meaningful, building the culture into the curriculum, making sure I'm modeling, not telling kids what to do, you know, thinking as a student, providing more opportunities for cooperative learning, and then that whole idea of student-centered instruction. But the long-term plan for the rest of the semester is up here. This is the next few weeks. Again, I don't want everyone to think we're learning the rubric. We're learning strategies that are in the rubric language. So we got about 10 more minutes. We're going to go over the evaluation process, and then I have one small piece for free you guys to do. So this part's community, right? 10:15 is when you guys get it?
No.
10:08.
10:08, okay. So this is just communicating to me from admin. This isn't something that I thought of, all right? So 2 evals per teacher, 1 first semester, 1 second semester. First semester for everybody's announced. You'll get an observation where someone will walk through and give you some sort of feedback. Following that, you'll get an email saying, hey, your eval's coming up, we want to schedule your eval. You pick the time, you pick the day. Based upon that day, they'll set up a pre-conference. You need to submit your lesson plan for the pre-conference 24 hours before the pre-conference. This is hugely important. It's not a waste of time. It gives your evaluator a chance to look at your design and your planning. But also gives your evaluator to say, oh, so like, I noticed this, you know, like, and they give you a chance to give you ideas. So you know what your evaluator is looking at. After your pre-conference, you have your bell-to-bell eval. Then soon after, I don't want to give a time frame, but it needs to be soon after, is the post-conference. Post-conference will work in just 3 steps, really. All the rest is kind of, you know, fluff. What did you do well? Tell me what you did well. And they'll direct you to what they think you did well. They'll say what needs improvement, and then direct you to what they think you need improvement on. And then they'll show their scores. So here's your scores. Let me know if you have any questions. They won't go over all your scores unless you ask specifically, tell me about this. They'll just go over this. You'll see your scores. Second semester comes around, and you have your unannounced. So your unannounced, there is no observation and there is no pre-conference. One of your evals has to be from a principal or vice principal, or assistant principal. So if you have the dean the first time, you know the second time is going to be one of the principals. So there is no walkthrough, there is no pre-conference. You're going to have an administrator come in at the beginning of class, and you're going to know it's your eval. Bell to bell. You also plan needs to be submitted 24 hours later. I've had teachers a lot of times say, why do I need to do this? You know, they already in my class. You want to provide them evidence of your plan. You want to provide the evidence that you know you're in a scope of a unit. Post-conference is the same, and then that's it for the year. If you don't get your first eval, you know, by December, I would be emailing about when it's coming up, because you don't want to get caught the week before Christmas break. If you don't get your eval before mid-April, I would be saying, can we do this before this testing comes up? Because you don't want to be doing your eval after your kids have been tested. Because then, you know, then
The
they're...
last week of school.
Yeah, and it happens, and it's not fair. So you want to... I always tell teachers, like, you want to be in control of this. You want to be able to tell your evaluator, this is how I'm doing activities and materials. This is how I'm doing accounting for academic feedback. You want to know this better than they know it. I mean, this is our language. And you want to be in control of your eval process. So know when, you know, the timetable is. Know when the first cycle is supposed to be over with. Communicate with them, hey, I got this going on. I'm going to be out of town, you know, during this time period. If you're looking to do my eval, you know, I would not like to have it during the last week before break, and I'm only going to be, you know, in school these days. You know, can we schedule something? So.
Now you said that it has to be a principal and a dean. I've always said dean and dean.
I will reconfirm that. That's not what I've heard.
And is our bill, since we're double blocked, is our bill or bill to?
I also will double check on that.
We emailed him yesterday, Mr. Verda, and he said it's just the one 50-minute period.
So they're doing just 15 minutes?
Well, half of that. If they come in during the block, it's just half of that.
Okay.
Yes.
So if they don't see the end, it's not.
That's important for you guys because unless it has to wrap up, you have to have some sort of check for understanding. You know, so if it's in the 50-minute time, you want to make sure that you get to, this was our objective today, did we meet our objective before they walk out that door?
Well, and we will tell you in our science/social studies, you're not going to see a bell ringer and an exit ticket because we have 30 minutes.
Well, that's being
We don't
generous.
even
By
have-
the time they
right,
walk
we have
around
like
and sit
24
down,
minutes,
and
yeah.
he came in and observed
Yeah,
us, and
that's
he was like,
over.
what are you doing? I'm
So
like,
when you
that's
come
it.
in during those times to observe us, you're probably not going to see a bell ringer and an exit ticket.
Yeah. So at least for your announced evaluations, make sure like whatever you think would be best for you, you communicate.
Right, right.
You're gonna have that autonomy and that
But
control over
will
it.
that be held against you because it's one of the check marks?
I mean, it should be held against you. I mean, they're
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it has not with the evaluators I've had.
We did though.
That was something that we discussed with them.
There's a link that you'll see in the slides, also in the support. It just asks you like, what are your personal goals? I'm not going to attach it to your name, but I like to have all those goals in here, just so we can kind of look at it and hold ourselves accountable. Like, look, this is what we're here for. So if you can, you guys are all closed up, but please go back into the resource page or click on the link in the slides, and it's a real, just simple 2-question. It's right here. Just a personal goal statement for the year. All right. I really appreciate you guys coming in, and I know it's voluntary, and so it means a lot to me to get coming in here. And I'll have these standards ready to go. Or not standards, these norms ready to go for next week. All right.
And we will get points for this, right?
Yeah.
We need them.
I'll give them at the end of the year, but say you need it for like your license before that, then I can print off what I have before that. Also, any one-on-ones that we have, I also log, and I'm going to use those for your points too.
So the plan is to meet every Wednesday,
I will offer it every week.
Thursday, I mean?
I'll offer every Wednesday after school, every Thursday before school, and Thursday during the day.
Okay.
And you come whenever you sign up for whatever day we're supposed to do.
Okay.
Or we can watch it online if we're gonna be gone the next
Watch
two
it online, yep.
Thursdays.
Ideally. Oh, this is kind
I'll
of.
send you guys a picture, don't worry.